Hello, my name is Cecilia, and I'm the director of Global Ballet Teachers. And I'm also currently a soloist dancer and teacher with Pacific Northwest Ballet here in Seattle, Washington, in the US. And it's an absolute pleasure to present this video series and course, which is called Intro to Music for Ballet Class. And for ballet teachers, it is vital to understand music and the role that it plays within dance training for your students. A lot of times music is overseen, and it is really one of the most essential things in dance. So learning about it and understanding it is extremely vital, and that's what we're here to learn. And so before we get into the video, let me introduce Andrew Holdsworth, I'm so sorry, Andrew Holdsworth, who will share his extensive musical knowledge with us, and we're so thrilled to have him. A little bit about him. Andrew is based in London. He produced, arranged, engineered, and played on dozens of albums for artists of many genres. So that's from death metal bands to Irish folk, from pop to classical. So he has a huge range. And outside of the recording studio, he is a ballet pianist. He actually played it for his first ballet class when he was 11 years old, and has worked with many inspired and inspiring teachers over the years. In the last couple years with Jonathan Still, he produced all the music for the latest syllabus for the Royal Academy of Dance, which you may know as RID. So he is extremely qualified, and we're just so thrilled to have him. So this video will cover the basics of music theory as well as dance rhythm. So without further ado, I will pass it on to Andrew.
Thanks, Cecilia. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk to you about music theory and dance rhythms today. I'm going to introduce you to some basic musical concepts such as pulse, time signature, meter, and tempo. I'm going to show you how different types of rhythms are typically used in a ballet class. I'm then going to give you some ideas to help you choose and find your own music for different ballet exercises and outcomes. Pulse is the most basic element of rhythm. It's like a dripping of a tap. Musically, it doesn't make any sense by itself. It's meaningless, and it needs to be organized to be effective. And it's grouped into patterns of 2s and 3s to create meter. A slow pulse can be subdivided into faster pulses. So I call this a crochet with my right hand. I'll do something twice as fast with the left hand. So in my left hand, I'm playing quavers. That's a quaver rhythm to a musician. This is a semi-quaver. See this hand, it's just going at the same tempo all the time. That's the pulse. But these are twice as fast, and these are 4 times as fast. A minim to a musician is half as fast. So a minim, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And a semi-breve, 1 is 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see how a pulse can be subdivided or joined together. A musician might call these pulses bars or note values like minims, crotchets, semiquavers. A dancer might call these pulses dancers' counts. Sometimes the numbers are the same, and sometimes they aren't. So a count to a musician might not be the same as a count to a dancer, which is why pianists sometimes get confused when dancers are counting music and expect the pianist to think the same way. So time signature is a feature of music notation, and it's a way of representing meter on the page. In its simplest terms, meter defines how music goes, and time signature describes how it's written. You might feel that music is in 3 when you're counting or moving along to it, but that doesn't mean it's written in 3/4. It might be written in 4 with a triplet accompaniment, 3 notes to 1 beat, for instance. So actually, I'll show you a triplet. Okay, this is the pulse, this is a triplet, 1 and 1. So I'll demonstrate something later on how you might use that as an accompaniment. So meter, time signatures, and dance rhythms. In meter, we only ever talk about groups of 2 or 3, whereas the number of possible time signatures is huge. You can have a 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, 3/8, 9/8, 12/8, 2-2, 4-2, 5-8, 7-8, the list goes on. But however complicated the time signature is, it'll only ever consist of a combination of 2s and 3s. So a 6-8 is a combination of 2 3s. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3. So that's and a 9-8, for instance, might be 3 3s. Is 3 3s. Let me think about this. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, etc. So time signature doesn't tell us anything about the tempo. It doesn't even tell us about the feel or the quality of the music. Different pieces in 3 can have an entirely different feel from another piece in 3, depending on how the beats are subdivided within the bar. So I tend to ask dance teachers what dance rhythm they want rather than what time signature they want, because time signatures are such an all-encompassing, vague notion, really, when you're trying to specify exactly what you want from music. So 3/4, for instance, can feel like 1 in a bar or 3 in a bar. I'll give you an example of a waltz, which you might feel as 1 in a bar. So although it will be written 1 2 3 1 2 3. A dancer wouldn't count that. A dancer would probably go 1 2 3. So it's very difficult to count and play at the same time. But you get the idea. I'll give you another waltz. And this is an RAD waltz. This is by Strauss. Now Strauss and his father, the whole Strauss family, lived in Vienna 150 years ago and wrote hundreds of waltzes and polkas. So if you're looking for a fairly standard waltz, orchestral waltz, then look no further than Strauss. This is you can tell it's written in 3, it's grouped in 3, 1 2 3 2, but you wouldn't count it like that. Whereas a polonaise has got a very distinct 3 counts to the bar. 1 2 3 1 2 3. 1 and a 2 and 3, and which is a typical polonaise rhythm. A mazurka is not a million miles away, in the sense that it's 1 and 2 3 2 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3 1 2 3 1 and 2 3. Okay, there's a fairly famous mazurka. You can play other things as mazurkas. I'll come on to that in a minute. So I've given you a couple of waltzes, the Strauss kind of thing. I'll give you a big waltz. Look for, if you want a big waltz for leaping around, grand allegro, or for grand battement or something like that. Something, type in, look for a grand valse or big waltz. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Lots of other different kinds of waltzes. Staying in 3. Scott Joplin was an American composer 130 years ago, who wrote some amazing rags. You will probably be familiar with The Entertainer. He wrote loads of other rags in 2, which we'll come to later. He also wrote quite a lot of waltzes, which are slightly more swingy, and yeah, just a different kind of flavor to a very classical waltz. This is called the Bethina waltz. Slightly swung. Further in that direction is a jazz waltz. You got to imagine a jazz drummer on his ride cymbal. This could be a jazz waltz. So it's going 3 1 2 3 1. Still got the part in the left hand, boom, but it's kind of swung over the top of it. The other end of the spectrum, if you want a slow kind of waltz for your adage, this is from Esmeralda. Or valse triste. That was a valse, what we call a valse lente, slow waltz, and sad waltz. If you want to go further in that direction, this is the most famous valse triste by Sibelius. Still in 3. 1. So it's kind of got a different feel, but it's still technically a waltz. It's called a waltz. A lot of pop songs, one of the things that I do is that I kind of reimagine pop songs into ballet music. So I might make a polka or a mazurka or a polonaise out of a pop song. I've done a lot of pop waltzes. For instance, I don't know, something by Justin Bieber, Love Yourself, I think. 2, 3, still got this going on the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you search any of my recordings, you will find, any of my albums, you'll find plenty of kind of pop songs turned into waltzes of different speeds, big ones and small ones, gentle ones. So I'll go to truly triple meter, which is where that's the RED expression for it, which is where you actually would count 3 all the time. So let's Destiny's Child. Let's think of a key, G minor. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Etc. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1. Totally different feel to a waltz, still written in 3. I've given you a couple of mazurkas. I'll give you a minuet. So a minuet is a more stately kind of 3/4. I'm going to give you a Mozart minuet that he wrote when he was 6 years old. Now, Mozart wrote lots of minuets. The thing about Mozart is that everybody loves to listen to Mozart, but it's not that easy to dance to Mozart. The genius of Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven, who didn't specifically write for ballet in the same way that Tchaikovsky did, for instance, is that they extend their phrases. So they're always unpredictable. They're keeping the listener waiting, expecting, you know, they're surprising the listener with extending the phrase from 8 bars to 10 bars to 12 bars. It's very unpredictable. It's very difficult to dance to a piece of Mozart unless you know, unless it's a minuet and was specifically written in 8s for people to dance to, or unless you've edited it or found a piece that happens to have 8-bar phrases. But if you find a Mozart piano sonata or something like that, it's very unusual. It will be very unusual for you to be able to dance to it. So I'll give you a minuet of his, which he wrote when he was 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. No papa in the left hand. Totally different feel. Etc. Another slightly unusual triple meter is the triple jig. I love triple jigs. There are millions of them around, although there are quite a lot of Celtic ones. So if you look up Irish violin music or Scottish violin music, you'll probably find quite a lot of triple jigs. I'll give you an example. This is Bach that I've converted into a triple jig. He didn't write it as a triple jig. But you'll recognize it probably. Let me think. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a So you could count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's triple meter. I'll now give you a few examples of duple meter, which is counting in twos rather than threes. So I'll start with tangos and habaneras. South American origin, typically with this kind of thing in the left hand. This is quite a slow, slinky kind of thing, like a habanera. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or a famous habanera from Carmen. Still got cha. You can have a very light kind of tango. If you like Beyonce. Or whatever. It's still got that one. Cha. Or a heavier kind of more Argentinian tango, a bit more meaty. So that's in 2, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now I'll give you a couple of gallops. No, I'll start with the march actually. Okay, so nice strong downbeat. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Try counting 3 to that, it's impossible. Okay, so that's in 2. There are 6/8 marches as well. Which are more rare, do exist. I'll play you one of those later, maybe. So a gallop step that you might do with 5-year-olds if you're doing a galloping around the room. It's technically a 6/8. Okay, a gallop from Giselle, a standard 2/4 gallop dance in a ballet would be straight in 2/4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So they're very useful gallops for certain types of steps. Also useful, I find, is a rag. I mentioned them briefly before. I'll give you a Scott Joplin rag. You don't need to look anywhere else. Scott Joplin wrote all the best rags, really. Maybe 100 composers have written wonderful waltzes, but only one composer really has written wonderful rags, and that's Scott Joplin. So this is called The Entertainer. Now this is interesting because this has got a very specific intro to it, which is not the length that you would normally use in a ballet class. So to count in normally in ballet classes, you would have 4 beats. Typically, if you've got a waltz, 5, 6, 7, 8, and start. Or if you've got something to jump to, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. Off you go. There are some exceptions, not many, but a Polonaise would typically count 6 in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go, etc. So the Entertainer. Let me just put a standard ballet introduction, 4-count introduction. 5, 6, 7, 8. A polka. Now, when I was 11, learning about how to play for ballet class, my teacher taught me, I like fried bread. I like fried bread. I like fried bread. And that's how I've always remembered a standard polka rhythm. There are lots of different polkas, and some of them sound more like I like fried bread than others. Again, Strauss wrote a lot of polkas, if you're looking for polkas. Okay. I like fried bread. I like fried bread. I like fried bread. Very straight, no swinginess to that at all. Some other 2/4, some other kind of things in duple time that you might like to use. Can. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. That kind of thing. Or a coda, a very balletic, strong coda. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, etc., etc. Okay, so that's codas. So we'll talk a little bit about 2/4s and 6/8s, and the difference in the feel between them. Now, these are both duple time technically. A 6/8 is 2 groups of 3. That's what we call compound time. A 12/8 is 4 groups of 3. That's compound time 2, because it's multiple groups of 3. So imagine some children jumping. 1. I'll play you straight 2/4. 2. 2. This is a hornpipe, sailor's hornpipe. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and there's no swinginess whatsoever. But imagine 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. The tempo is the same, should be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a 6/8. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. It's kind of it's different. It feels different from 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and even though the tempo is the same. Very straight. 6/8. Okay. So I'll give you a few examples of 6/8. There's obviously a standard jig. 1. You wouldn't count it like that, but that's kind of fairly standard sauté tempo. A tarantella, that's also in 6/8. Okay, I'll give you a it's kind of got a slightly different feel. It's probably slightly heavier than a jig. Let's talk a little bit about 4/4, which is obviously what most music that you would listen to on the radio is in 4/4. Jazz songs, most of that is in 4/4. It's very unusual to find a pop song in 3/4. There are a few exceptions in the 50s. That kind of thing. Waltz ballads, but most pop songs on the radio in 2022 are in 4. There are some are in 6/8. Let me think. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But okay, so typical Elton John song. I don't know. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I'll put a flowing. I'm trying to play quavers in the bass to make it really smooth. Do you remember quavers from earlier? 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1. There's always some movement going on, which can be helpful for certain ballet exercises. You might want a 4/4, which is almost completely opposite, very static. So something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, left hand, or the orchestra's, there's lots of space in it, which can be great in certain adagios or whatever. You'll find lots of these examples on my albums. What about? This is another very smooth, constant for Port de Bras or whatever. This is a kind of 4. If you like music from the 80s. Okay, so I will talk a little bit about 12/8, which is another compound time. I'll give you an example of a piece by Andrew Lloyd Webber, Music of the Night. Probably count this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen to the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He's playing triplets underneath. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that gives you an example of a 12/8. There are other time signatures that will be used much less often. 5/8, for instance, there are some 5/8 in Sleeping Beauty and things like that. Let me think of a 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So yeah, there aren't many pieces in 5/8, but they can be kind of fun if you can think of some exercises to do to that kind of music. So I think we've covered triple meter, we've covered duple meter, time signatures, pulse, tempo, different dance styles. Have you got any questions?
Yeah,
Anything I haven't covered?
Yeah, I loved everything that you demonstrated. I feel like I now have a deeper understanding of different music. And when I'm going to be in ballet class, I'm going to be counting and seeing whether it's a 6/8 or a 4/4. And it was really nice to have a refresher. So just a reminder, all the teachers that are watching this, like you may think you know musicality, but it's always nice to have a reminder and just remember all the different details and different speeds. So even within like the triplets that you were showing, like what a difference in rhythm. So like, yes, they're all in 3, but you can have a slow 3 or a poppy fast one that you jump to. So I just really love seeing all those differences. So thank you for walking us through all of them. But I think my biggest point that I want to get across for musicality is it's something that needs to be taught. So students aren't just born with the knowledge of understanding music. Maybe some people are more musical than others, but it is really up to the teacher, and fortunately, if they have a pianist or not, to teach students how to count music. So that's up to the teacher to know whether it's a music in 2 or in 3 and all those differences. So I want to talk through a couple ways of teaching musicality to your students. And I think the first one, which I will ask for your help, Andrew, is clapping. Well, you can't clap, but I can clap on the screen here when the music is playing. So let me back up a little bit. When you're introducing new rhythms, so just say you're introducing I really like the Coppelia Mazurka, so a 3. Dun, 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 1, 2, 3. And so you'd have the students clap to the music. Yeah. And so you put the music on play, or have the pianist play it, and you have the students clap 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da da dun dun da da da. And then once they get that, you can add what Andrew was saying was like the first beat. I'm going to demonstrate. So you can add stomping into it. So da 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 da. So there are a bunch of different ways of adding clapping or stomping or marching in the studio, just something very rhythmic and basic. So don't have them do fouette pirouettes to learn musicality. It has to be something really basic like clapping or hitting the wall or hitting the floor or stomping your feet, whatever it is, something really simple to get the musicality. And then when you show a step, so you do tendu fifth, hold, tendu fifth, then they get it. They get how to count it in their bodies and in their brains. So that can be for music in 3 or music in 4. Another example of teaching that I think is really fun is just say you have a music in 2, or I would count it in 4. So really any of the options, but like, let's pick a tango, for example. You have the students clap 1, 2, 3, 4 to 8 or whatever. And then you have them dance for 4 or 8 counts, free dance around, and then they have to pause for 4 or 8 counts. And then so that forces them, like they get the jiggles out of their body, and then they have to count 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can do an example, Andrew, if you want to play a duplet of something, and I'm going to pretend to do 8 counts of free dancing and then 8 counts of stable. So Andrew, whenever you're ready.
And you want a tango? Is that what you want?
Anything in 4.
Anything in 4? Okay. All right, let's do. Okay.
Yeah, so something similar to that. It's something fun for the kids to do, like skipping in a circle or something. Yeah, and I guess I'll pass it on to you, Andrew. Do you have any other methods of like teaching musical rhythms or musicality to students?
I think there's quite a few things I could say about this, but to keep it brief, I think that bouncing a ball is often useful. Trying to keep that going, or throwing a ball to your friend and getting it back in time. It's not easy, and you can spend a whole lesson doing this kind of thing. Delcro's Eurythmics, I think it's called. But that's one thing. I think the whole thing about musicality, I think that you need to some extent, teach children what to listen to. So when we were doing the RED music, we figured that most people in ballet listen to a piano most of the time, and we thought that was a little bit restricting. So we start putting violins on and drums and all this kind of thing. And if you can, as a teacher, point out to the children, right, this time we're going to dance this. Let's listen to the drums. Just, try and dance to the drums. Then maybe next time we do it, try and dance to the top line. Try and dance to the violin. Maybe the next time, listen to what the bass is doing. Boom, 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 boom. If you point these things out over time, and you point out in lots of different kinds of music, it's not just in pop music, it's not just in classical music. There'll be the double bass is going boom, 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 boom. And in a pop song, there'll be a bass guitar doing it or whatever. So I think learning those different layers within the music, there's some chords in the background. They're just going on behind the melody, behind the rhythm, behind the bass. Point those things out. Speed music up, slow it down. If you've got one of those machines that can do it, do that. Dance it faster, dance it slow. Feel the difference. Do the same exercise to 2 different pieces of music. This is great. I mean, just the simple example I showed you was the 2, 4, and 6/8 thing. How to do sota, same speed. They don't have to do it any different. It will feel different. Get them to feel the difference between the bounciness of the 6/8 and the steady, the straightness, if you like, of the 2, 4. Yeah, that's it. And I think dancing to all sorts of things. Dance to Baroque music. Try some really stately stuff. Dance to classical music, Mozart, that kind of stuff. Then Tchaikovsky and Prokofiev, things that we're used to seeing people doing ballet to. And then try dancing to pop music. Try finding pop music in 3 and 6. It is out there. Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Break Away. There are quite a few songs that are in 6/8. So yeah, get them really listening. I mean, when they listen at home to pop songs, tell them to just listen to a bass line. Find out what the bass does in this. Find out what the rhythm, what drives this track. I think all these kinds of things, it develops the listening, and it's all about listening, really. And eventually, you'll get to a stage. The way I feel about musicality at the very highest level, it's almost like when I'm playing for classes, I'm kind of driving what they're doing. But when the dance is so good, it feels as though I'm driving the dance, but actually the dancer is driving me. So feels like I'm following them, but it's quite difficult to explain. But it's almost like you know, they are conducting the orchestra, you know, at the highest level. So, you know, obviously there are lots of different stages before you get up to that kind of level of understanding of music, and just start at a very young age as well. Start introducing musical knowledge, musical examples, listening from a very young age.
Yeah, I love that you brought up like listening to different styles of music and having them not only like, oh, am I listening to the bass or the drums, or am I listening to the violins on top or the piano, but also just experiencing the different types of music. So like a tango versus an adagio versus a waltz versus a jig, like there's so much variety within even those categories, but even within like all the music types, and experiencing the textures of the music as well. So a slow adagio, if you're going to free form it, it's going to be a little bit more like port de bras, slow movement. And then a jig, you're like dun, 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 dun. So just like having the students feel in their body what the different types of music rhythms do to them. Not only like learning the musicality, which we just spent learning about, but also like, how does the music make you feel? And does it make you want to jump? So when you're doing a tendu, you could do a very slow, smooth adagio type tendu, or sharp and down and sharp and fifth, right? So it's the same step. Music makes all the difference in the way that you execute it. So having the kids just like free form dance, not have to make it super rigid, is a wonderful way of doing that for even teenagers, let alone little kiddos. Yeah, but that's all I wanted to share for tips for teachers of how to share it. So I'll pass it on to you, Andrew, to close it out.
All right. Well, we are going to talk a little bit in our next video about specific musical choices for exercises. So what you might choose for a tendu, what you might choose for a grand battement, what you might choose for adage or whatever. So we're going to do that in a separate video, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and see you in a minute.
Thank you.